I watched my mother-in-law's manicured fingers slide another crystal vase into her designer tote bag, and something inside me finally snapped. The sound of expensive glass clinking against itself echoed through my empty living room, a room that should have been filled with our wedding gifts. I'm Valentina, and this was the moment I realized I'd married into a family of thieves. Nancy, what are you doing with those? My voice came out steadier than I felt, surprising even myself. The late afternoon sun caught the diamonds on her fingers as she froze, caught in the act like a child stealing cookies. Oh, darling. She recovered quickly, plastering on that saccharine smile I'd grown to despise. I'm just helping you organize. These lovely pieces will look much better in our formal dining room. You know how Ben grew up with them. Robert, my father-in-law, stood guard by their Mercedes, visible through our front window. He was probably calculating the resale value of our wedding crystal. Those were gifts for Ben and me, I said, stepping closer. From our friends, our colleagues. Nancy waved her hand dismissively. Sweetheart, you don't even entertain. What use could you possibly have for Waterford crystal? Besides, Ben agrees with me. Of course he did. Ben always agreed with his mother. I'd watched him do it for the past 2 years we'd dated. And now, 3 months into our marriage, nothing had changed. Where is Ben? I asked, though I already knew. He'd conveniently disappeared the moment his parents arrived, muttering something about a work emergency. He's busy, dear. Now, there's this lovely Lalique piece I noticed in your kitchen. I pulled out my phone and dialed Ben's number, straight to voicemail. Typical. Nancy, put everything back. I moved to block her path to the kitchen. Now, her eyes narrowed, the friendly facade cracking. I don't think you understand how things work in this family, Valentina. We share everything. We always have. Share or take. The front door opened, and Ben walked in, his architect's portfolio tucked under his arm. His eyes darted between us, taking in the scene, his mother clutching the bag of stolen gifts, me standing my ground, the empty shelves where our wedding presents had been displayed. What's going on? He asked, though his tone suggested he'd rather not know. Your mother is stealing our wedding gifts, I said bluntly. Val, don't be dramatic, Ben sighed, running a hand through his hair. Mom's just trying to help. And there it was. The familiar pattern. The practiced dance of denial and deflection. I watched as he walked over to kiss his mother's cheek, completely ignoring the evidence literally in her hands. Actually, Nancy chirped, I thought these pieces would look lovely in our home. You know your father and I host all those charity events. Ben nodded, as if this made perfect sense. See, Val, Mom will put them to good use. I felt something shift inside me, like tectonic plates grinding against each other before an earthquake. This wasn't just about crystal anymore. This was about respect, boundaries, and the slow erosion of everything I thought marriage would be. Fine, I said quietly. Take them. Take everything. They all looked surprised at my sudden surrender. Ben even smiled, probably thinking he'd successfully mediated another family dispute. But Nancy caught something in my tone that made her pause. For a brief moment, our eyes met, and I saw a flicker of uncertainty cross her face. She should be uncertain, because in that moment, watching my husband help his mother carry away our wedding gifts, I made a decision. This wouldn't be the last time they took something from me, but it would be the last time I let them take it without consequences. I pulled out my phone again, this time texting my best friend Sophia. You were right about everything. I need your help. The response came immediately. Finally, when do we start? I smiled, watching the Mercedes pull away from our driveway, loaded with thousands of dollars worth of crystal and china. They thought they were taking our wedding gifts. What they were really taking was my last shred of loyalty to this family, and I was going to make them regret it. The restaurant hostess's face fell as she saw Nancy and Robert trailing behind us. I'm sorry, Mrs. Parker, but your reservation was only for 2. I gripped my small clutch tighter. The anniversary dinner I'd spent weeks planning crumbling before my eyes. There must be some mistake. It's our 3-month anniversary, and I specifically, Oh, don't worry about that. Nancy's voice carried across the intimate French bistro. Robert, darling, sort this out. You know the owner, don't you? I turned to Ben, hoping to see some recognition of what was happening. But he was already pulling out his phone, probably to avoid the confrontation. 3 months of marriage, and I was starting to recognize all his escape routes. Actually, I said, my voice steady, this was meant to be a private celebration. Nancy laughed, the sound like breaking glass. Private? Darling, we're family. Besides, we have wonderful news to share. The hostess disappeared, presumably to rearrange the entire dining room to accommodate Nancy's demands. I watched my carefully selected corner table for two, the one with the perfect view of the Seine, vanish into the realm of might-have-beens. What news? Ben finally looked up from his phone, and I caught a glimpse of something in his expression. Guilt? Knowledge? Well, Nancy practically purred. Your father and I have been thinking about that lovely trip to Paris you mentioned. My stomach dropped. I'd only told Ben about my Paris plans yesterday. A surprise I'd been saving up for. 6 months of extra freelance work, carefully hidden away in a separate account. Mother, Ben interrupted. Maybe we should wait. Nonsense. We've already started making arrangements. The 4 of us, 2 weeks in Paris this summer. Robert's business contact has a wonderful apartment in the 16th arrondissement. The waiter arrived with menus, and I watched as Robert ordered a bottle of champagne I knew cost more than my weekly salary. My own carefully selected wine pairing, discussed with the sommelier last week, forgotten. The 4 of us, I echoed, my voice hollow. Of course. We couldn't let you two go alone. You've never been to Paris, dear. You wouldn't know where to go, what to do. And Ben needs us to introduce him to the right people. His architecture career could really benefit from European connections. I felt Sophia's earlier text burning in my pocket. Started digging into the Parkers' finances. You won't believe what I found. That's so thoughtful, I said, surprising everyone at the table, including myself. When were you thinking of going? July, Robert announced. We've already spoken to Ben about taking time off. I turned to my husband. July, when were you going to tell me about this? Ben shifted in his seat. His tell when he was uncomfortable. I was waiting for the right moment. It's why I've been working late, actually, preparing the office for my absence. The lies fell into place like dominoes. The late nights, the secretive phone calls, the sudden interest in French cuisine. He'd been planning this with them all along. A toast, Nancy raised her champagne glass. To family traditions and new adventures. I raised my glass mechanically, watching the bubbles rise and burst, like my plans, like my marriage. Speaking of traditions, Robert added, we'll need to discuss the financial arrangements. We've already put down deposits, but I'll take care of it, I interrupted, surprising them again. In fact, I insist. Let me handle all the bookings. Nancy's perfectly plucked eyebrows rose. That's unexpected. But surely you'd rather we… No, please, I want to contribute. After all, we're family, right? Ben smiled, clearly relieved that I was playing along. He reached for my hand under the table, but I was already reaching for my phone, texting Sophia. Need those account numbers now. Time to play their game. The waiter returned with our appetizers. Not the ones I'd pre-ordered, of course. Nancy had changed those too. As they launched into their plans for Paris, I sat back and listened, letting their voices wash over me like static. They thought they were planning a family vacation. What they were really planning was their own undoing. I'd let them take my wedding gifts, my anniversary dinner, and now they wanted to take my dream trip to Paris. But this time, I was going to take something back. The champagne tasted like victory. The email from Nancy landed in my inbox with the force of a grenade. Attached was a spreadsheet titled, Paris Expenses and Expectations. But it might as well have been called, Ways to Bleed You Dry. I scrolled through the list, each line item more outrageous than the last. First-class flights, 5-star hotels, designer shopping allowances, private tours, Michelin-starred restaurants every night. At the bottom, a neat sum that equaled my entire year's salary. "You've got to be kidding me," Sophia said, peering over my shoulder at her kitchen counter. "They expect you to pay for all of this." "Look at the note at the bottom." I pointed to Nancy's elegant script. "Since you insisted on handling the arrangements, darling, here's what we require for a proper Parker family vacation." My phone buzzed. Liam. I'd been avoiding his calls since the anniversary dinner disaster, but something made me answer. "Val, we need to talk," he said, his voice tight. "About Ben and the Paris trip." "I already know they're trying to bankrupt me," I said, but Liam cut me off. "No, it's worse. I overheard Ben and Nancy at the country club yesterday. They're planning to use your photography business contacts in Paris to launch Nancy's new luxury lifestyle brand. They've already registered the company name." The room tilted sideways. My photography network, the one I'd spent years building, the contacts I'd mentioned to Ben in confidence. They were planning to steal that too. "Val," Sophia touched my arm. "You've gone white." "I have to go," I told Liam, hanging up just as Ben walked into Sophia's kitchen. He froze when he saw my face. "What are you doing here?" he asked, looking between me and Sophia. "What am I doing here? What are you doing here?" "I was looking for you. You weren't answering your phone." He spotted the laptop screen. "Oh, you got Mom's email. Look, I know it seems like a lot, but when were you going to tell me about the business plan?" The color drained from his face. "Who told you?" "Does it matter? Were you ever going to mention that you and your mother plan to use my professional contacts, my relationships, my reputation?" "It's not like that." Ben stepped forward, hands raised. "Mom just thought, since we're going anyway." "We're not going anywhere." I slammed the laptop shut. "I'm not paying for their luxury vacation, and I'm certainly not letting them steal my business connections." "Nobody's stealing anything." Ben's voice rose. "God, you're so paranoid about my parents. They're trying to help us." "Help us?" "Like they helped by taking our wedding gifts, by ruining our anniversary, by treating me like their personal ATM? They have experience, Val. Mom knows how to move in the right circles. Your little photography business could really benefit from—" "My little photography business?" The words fell like ice between us. "The one that paid for our honeymoon? The one that's been supporting us while you chase unpaid networking opportunities with your father's friends?" Sophia quietly slipped out of the kitchen, but I barely noticed. Ben was pacing now, running his hands through his hair. "You're being impossible," he said. "This is a family opportunity. We're supposed to be a team." "A team?" I pulled up Nancy's email again. "Show me where in this list of demands we're a team. Show me where my opinion matters. Show me where your parents see me as anything but a checkbook and a stepping stone." "You know what?" Ben's voice turned cold. "Maybe Mom's right. Maybe you're not really Parker material after all." The words hung in the air between us, and in that moment, I saw our entire future. Years of being used, manipulated, and dismissed. Years of Ben choosing his parents over me. Years of watching everything I built being stripped away piece by piece. "You're right," I said quietly. "I'm not Parker material, and I never want to be." I grabbed my laptop and walked past him, but stopped at the door. "By the way, I already booked the Paris trip, non-refundable deposits, first class everything, just like Nancy wanted." Ben's face lit up. "See, I knew you'd come around. I booked it for July 15th, I continued. "The same day your architecture firm presents their biggest project of the year, the one you've been working on for months. Funny how your mother didn't know about that when she picked the dates." I left him standing there, his mouth open, as the first piece of my plan clicked into place. Let them try to cancel. Let them scramble. Let them feel what it's like to have someone else control their choices. The game was just beginning. The notification from my banking app flashed across my phone screen as I sat in Liam's car outside the travel agency. Another transfer from our joint account, this time for $5,000. My fingers trembled as I pulled up the transaction history. "They're bleeding you dry," Liam said quietly, watching my face. "How much have they taken?" "Nearly everything." I scrolled through weeks of transfers, each one labeled with innocent descriptions like family dinner or house maintenance. I should have seen this coming. My phone buzzed with a text from Ben. Had to move some money for Paris preparations. Mom's handling the details. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, I echoed, the words bitter in my mouth. That's his solution for everything. Liam shifted in his seat. There's something else you should know. He pulled out an envelope from his jacket. I found these in Ben's office when I was dropping off those project files. Inside were printouts of email exchanges between Ben and his mother, travel itineraries, business plans, and most damning of all, a draft agreement for a new company, Parker Lifestyle Ventures. My name was nowhere on the documents, but my client list was there, along with detailed notes about my European photography contacts. They're meeting them next week, Liam said. Your contacts in Paris, they're presenting themselves as the owners of your network. The travel agency's windows gleamed in the afternoon sun. Inside, the tickets I'd booked for their Paris trip waited. First-class flights I'd maxed out my personal credit card to purchase. One final play in a game I was finally starting to understand. We should go in, I said. I need to make some changes to those reservations. Val. Liam hesitated. Are you sure about this? Once you start, they're already stealing my money and my business contacts. What else do I have to lose? The bell chimed as we entered the agency. The travel agent's smile faltered when she saw my expression. Mrs. Parker, here to pick up the tickets for... I need to make some changes. I placed Nancy's wish list on the counter. Every luxury upgrade they wanted. Do it. First class to business. 5-star hotels to 6. Private tours. Exclusive restaurants. The works. That's quite an increase in cost, the agent said carefully. Don't worry about it, I smiled, echoing Ben's words. The Parkers can handle it. As she processed the changes, my phone buzzed again. Nancy this time. Darling, we need to discuss the business opportunity in Paris. Ben tells me you're being difficult about sharing your contacts. I texted back. Actually, I've been thinking about what you said, about being Parker material. Let me show you how it's done. Liam watched me, concern etched on his face. They're going to figure it out eventually. That's the point. I signed the final authorization for the changes. By then, it'll be too late. The agent handed over the new itinerary. Everything's confirmed, non-refundable, as requested. The total comes to... The number made my eyes water, but I didn't flinch. Perfect. Send the confirmation to Nancy Parker directly. She'll want to see exactly what her daughter-in-law is capable of. Outside, the sun was setting, casting long shadows across the parking lot. Liam touched my arm gently. What happens when they realize what you've done? They wanted a proper Parker vacation. They're going to get one. I pulled out my phone one last time, forwarding the emails Liam had found to my lawyer. And when they try to back out, when they realize they can't afford their own expensive tastes, that's when the real fun begins. And Ben, the question hung between us. In my pocket, my wedding ring felt suddenly heavy. Ben made his choice a long time ago, I said. He just didn't realize he was choosing for both of us. My phone lit up with Nancy's response. Wonderful news, darling. I knew you'd come around. We'll make a Parker of you yet. I smiled, thinking of the financial bomb I'd just armed. No, Nancy, I'm going to show you what happens when you try to make someone into something they're not. The sun disappeared behind the buildings, and with it, the last traces of the person I used to be. The one who tried to please everyone. The one who let herself be molded and manipulated. That person was gone. And what was emerging in her place? That was something the Parkers would soon discover. The silence in our house had its own weight. 5 days since the travel agency, and Ben and I had perfected the art of avoiding each other. The only evidence of his existence was the occasional coffee mug in the sink, or the sound of his car leaving early each morning. I was photographing the empty spaces, the half-cleared dinner plate, his untouched side of the bed, the vacant chair at our breakfast nook, when Sophia's text lit up my phone. Emergency. Check your email, now. The message from my top Paris client appeared first. Valentina, I'm confused. Your husband's mother just called about taking over our contract. She said you're stepping back from photography to focus on their family business. Please clarify. My hand shook as I scrolled through similar messages. 5 years of professional relationships, all contacted by Nancy in the past 24 hours. The front door opened, Ben's footsteps, then a pause. You're home early, I said, without turning around. The contractor meeting finished sooner than expected. His voice sounded strange, strained. Mom's been trying to reach you. I bet she has. I turned, showing him my phone. Want to explain why she's calling my clients? He loosened his tie, a gesture I once found endearing. Now it just looked like another evasion. It's not what you think. Really, because it looks like your mother is systematically dismantling my business while you stand by and watch. She's trying to help. The Parker name carries weight in Europe. Your little photography business could become something real. Something real? The laugh that escaped me didn't sound like my own. Like those real wedding gifts she took, or that real anniversary dinner she ruined. God, you're still on about that? It was months ago. 3 months, 2 weeks, and 4 days. I pulled up the banking app. The same amount of time you've been helping them drain our accounts. His face paled. You weren't supposed to notice that yet. The words hung between us like a confession. In the kitchen, the clock ticked, marking the moment our marriage truly ended. I've got a meeting, he said finally, turning away. With the investors for Parker Lifestyle Ventures. He froze. How did you know about the company you and Nancy registered using my client list? Funny thing about paperwork, it always leaves a trail. My phone buzzed again. Nancy. Darling, why aren't my calls going through? We need to discuss the Paris arrangements. The hotel wants additional confirmation for the upgrades you ordered. Ben's phone chimed immediately after. He read the message, his expression shifting from confusion to alarm. Val, what did you do? Exactly what Nancy wanted. First class everything. The most expensive suites, restaurants, tours, non-refundable of course. Consider it my investment in the family business. We can't afford. No, you can't. Not since I moved my money to a separate account this morning. But don't worry, the bookings are all under the Parker name. Your mother's name, specifically. He ran his hands through his hair, a gesture so familiar it almost hurt. This isn't you. You're not vindictive like this. You're right. I'm not vindictive. I picked up my camera, photographing his desperate expression. I'm just finally playing by Parker rules. His phone kept buzzing. Nancy, probably realizing the financial trap I'd set. But Ben just stood there, looking lost in his own home. We could fix this, he said quietly. If you just talk to Mom, apologize. Apologize? I checked my email again. 3 more clients, all confused about Nancy's calls. For what? Not letting your family steal everything I've built. For not understanding how things work in our world. Your world, Ben. Not mine. Never mine. I gathered my camera gear, heading for the door. Behind me, Ben's voice cracked. Where are you going? To meet my lawyer, then to see Liam. Liam, what does he have to do with this? I paused at the threshold, taking one last photo of my husband, standing in our empty house. He's the one who showed me the company paperwork. Turns out, not everyone in your life is willing to watch you destroy someone. The door closed behind me with a finality that felt like freedom. In my car, another text from Nancy waited. This isn't how a Parker behaves. I smiled, starting the engine. She was right about one thing. This wasn't how a Parker behaves. This was how Valentina behaves. And I was just getting started. The bank statement stared back at me from Sophia's kitchen table. Its numbers impossible yet real. 0. Every account emptied, including my private savings. Only my separate photography account remained untouched, protected by yesterday's desperate decision to move it. They couldn't have gotten away with this, Sophia said, pacing. It's illegal. Joint accounts, I replied, my voice hollow. Ben had full access, perfectly legal. My phone lit up with an Instagram notification. Nancy Parker's account, usually private, had suddenly gone public. The latest post showed Ben, Nancy, and Robert at Charles de Gaulle Airport. The caption read, "Surprise family business trip. Sometimes the best plans come together at the last minute." Parker lifestyle. Paris. Last minute. They'd planned this for months. They used my travel arrangements, I said, zooming in on the photo. The first-class tickets I booked, the hotel reservations, everything. But how could they afford with my money? I pulled up the banking app again, checking the timestamp of the final withdrawal. They cleaned out the accounts an hour before their flight. Liam burst through Sophia's door, his face flushed. "Val, I just heard. The architecture firm. Ben resigned yesterday, effective immediately." The pieces clicked into place, the late nights at the office, the mysterious meetings. He hadn't been working on the firm's biggest project. He'd been planning his exit. My phone buzzed with a text from Ben. "You forced our hand. If you'd just played along, this could have been different. Mom says you can still be part of Parker Lifestyle Ventures if you apologize and sign over your client list." The laugh that escaped me sounded foreign, almost hysterical. "They think I'll still give them my clients? After this?" "There's more," Liam said quietly, pulling out his phone. "They've already started reaching out to your Paris contacts, claiming you've had a breakdown, and they're taking over your contracts to protect the business relationships." My hands shook as I checked my email. Dozens of messages from clients, all expressing concern about my mental health, all referring to conversations with Nancy Parker. "They're not just stealing my money," I whispered. "They're trying to steal my reputation, my entire life." Sophia grabbed her laptop. "We can fight this. Call the police, hire lawyers." "With what money?" I spread the bank statements across the table. "They took everything, even my emergency fund." "I can help," Liam offered. "I have savings." "No." The word came out sharper than intended. "I won't let them make me dependent on someone else again." My phone kept buzzing. More Instagram posts from Nancy. Lunch at Le Cinq, shopping at Chanel, meetings with my biggest clients. Each photo tagged with Dr. B. Parker Lifestyle. Each caption more triumphant than the last. Then came the final blow. An email from the hotel in Paris. Confirmation of cancellation and transfer of reservation to Nancy Parker. All charges and upgrades approved under new card. They'd even taken the revenge I'd planned. Turned my own trap against me. "Val?" Sophia touched my arm. "What are you thinking?" I stared at the latest photo. Nancy wearing a designer scarf I'd once admired, standing in front of my favorite Paris cafe. The cafe where I'd planned to take Ben on our honeymoon. "I'm thinking it's time to stop playing by their rules." I pulled up my contact list. "Liam, you still have access to Ben's old work files?" He nodded slowly. "Everything's still on the shared drive." "Why?" "Because while Nancy's busy posting about luxury lifestyle, I bet she hasn't looked too closely at the Parker family finances." I turned to Sophia. "Remember that story you were researching about tax evasion in luxury real estate?" Sophia's eyes widened. "Robert Parker's development deals. The ones he's been hiding from the IRS." I started typing. "The same deals he's using to finance their Paris adventure." "Val," Liam warned, "if you do this, they already destroyed my marriage, took my money, tried to steal my business." I hit send on the first email. Now they get to learn what happens when you push someone too far. My phone lit up one last time. A message from Nancy. "See what happens when you try to play in our league." I smiled, thinking of the documents already flying through cyberspace toward financial regulators and tax authorities. "No, Nancy," I whispered. "Let me show you what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness." The game wasn't over. It was just moving to a different playing field. And this time, I was writing the rules. The pounding on Sophia's front door started at midnight. Nancy's voice cut through the darkness. "We know you're in there, Valentina. Open this door right now." I remained seated at the kitchen table, surrounded by printouts of Robert's financial records. 3 days since my email to the IRS, and the Parkers had finally come home from Paris. Sophia appeared at my shoulder. Should I call the police? Not yet. I gathered the papers, arranging them carefully. Let them in. The moment Sophia opened the door, Nancy burst through like a designer hurricane, Robert and Ben trailing behind. The sight of Ben made my stomach clench. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. "You vindictive little nobody," Nancy spat. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" I met her gaze steadily. "Reported tax fraud? Alerted financial authorities to hidden assets? Or are you talking about the anonymous tip to your country club about embezzled membership fees?" Robert's face went purple. "You had no right. Like you had no right to drain my accounts?" I spread the documents across the table. "Or use my stolen money to finance your Paris spending spree?" "That money was family money," Nancy insisted. "Everything we did was for the family business." "You mean this business?" I slid forward a copy of their company registration. "The one you created using my stolen client list. The one you're using to launder money through fake photography contracts." Ben stepped forward, his voice shaking. "Val, please, we can fix this." "Fix what, Ben?" "The federal investigation into your father's real estate deals, the IRS audit, or maybe the fraud charges for stealing my identity to access my professional contacts." Nancy's perfectly manicured hand slammed the table. "We built something magnificent, a legacy, and you destroyed it because you couldn't handle not being in control." I laughed, the sound sharp enough to make them flinch. "Control? You stole my wedding gifts, hijacked my anniversary, drained my accounts, tried to steal my business, and you're talking to me about control?" "Everything we took," Robert growled. "We earned—" "The only thing you earned," I interrupted, "was this." I pressed play on my phone, and Nancy's voice filled the room. "Of course we're using her money. The little fool actually thinks Ben married her for love." Ben went pale. "Mom, it's from last week," I said quietly. "Liam recorded it at the country club, right before you all flew to Paris with my money." "You were never supposed to be permanent," Nancy snapped. "Just a convenient stepping stone. But you couldn't even manage that gracefully." The silence that followed was deafening. Ben stared at his mother, then at me, his world visibly crumbling. "Val," he whispered. "I didn't know." "Didn't know?" I stood slowly. "Or didn't want to know? Which is worse, Ben." Robert moved toward the documents, but Sophia was faster, snatching them away. "Touch anything," she warned, and I pressed send on the full dossier waiting in my email. "You're bluffing," Nancy said, but her voice wavered. I pulled up my phone, showing them the screen. "The IRS agent handling your case, the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit, 3 investigative journalists, 1 button, Nancy. That's all it takes." "You'll destroy everything," Robert pleaded. "No," I corrected him. "You destroyed everything. I'm just making sure you can't do it to anyone else." Ben took a step toward me, but stopped when I raised my hand. "Val, whatever they did, I love—" "If you finish that sentence," I cut him off, "I'll add perjury to the charges. Because we both know it's not true." Nancy's composure finally cracked. "What do you want?" "Everything you took from me, plus interest. My clients contacted and told the truth. And you all stay out of my life. Forever." "Or?" Robert challenged. I smiled, and for the first time I saw fear in Nancy's eyes. "Or I burn the Parker name so thoroughly that even your country club won't return your calls." The silence stretched, heavy with decades of entitlement meeting its match. "Fine," Nancy finally spat. "You'll have your money tomorrow." "And my clients?" "I'll make the calls." They filed out, broken and bitter, but Ben lingered at the door. "I never meant—" "Goodbye, Ben." After they left, Sophia touched my shoulder. "Are you okay?" I looked at my shaking hands, surprised to find them steady. "You know what's strange? For the first time since I met them, I actually am." The night air carried the sound of their car driving away, taking with it the last traces of the life they'd tried to force me into. And in its place, something new began to grow, something entirely my own. The divorce papers lay unsigned on my desk, while I sorted through the last box of wedding photos. Each image captured a moment I'd once thought perfect. Ben's smile, my hopeful eyes, Nancy's calculated approval. Now they told a different story. My phone buzzed. Liam, just left the courthouse. Thought you should know. The Parkers took the plea deal. I set down the stack of photos, my hands steadier than I expected. The investigation had revealed more than even I'd suspected. Years of tax evasion, fraudulent real estate deals, a pattern of destroying people who got in their way. The doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Ben, looking lost in an ill-fitting suit. Not the polished architect I'd married, but something rougher, more real. I opened the door, but blocked the entrance. The papers aren't signed yet. I'm not here for that. He held out a familiar velvet box. Found these in Mom's safe. Your grandmother's earrings. The ones from our wedding. I took the box without opening it. Another stolen piece returning home. They're serving house arrest, he said quietly. Dad's company is finished. The Parker name isn't my problem anymore. No, he agreed, surprising me. It never should have been. My phone buzzed again. A text from my biggest Paris client. Contract renewed. Your vision, your terms. No Parkers involved. I heard about your new studio, Ben said. The international expansion. You're doing well. I am. I studied his face, searching for the man I'd thought I married. Are you? Learning to be. He shifted, uncomfortable with honesty. Liam's been helping me understand some things. Liam. Something clicked into place. All those times Liam had been there, watching, protecting. Not just a friend looking out for me, but something more complicated. He's a better man than I am, Ben said softly. He always saw you clearly. I only saw what Mom wanted me to see. Through the window, I spotted Sophia pulling up in her car. Time for our meeting with the real estate agent. My new gallery space wouldn't plan itself. I should go, Ben said, reading my expression. Just, thank you. For what? For showing me what strength looks like, even if I learned too late. He turned to leave, then stopped. The night you planned our anniversary dinner, I was going to tell them about the Paris trip myself. Had this whole speech planned about standing up to them. But then, you chose them anyway. I chose wrong. He smiled sadly. Goodbye, Valentina. After he left, I opened the velvet box. The earrings caught the light, but instead of the pain I expected, I felt only clarity. I set them aside and picked up my camera, checking the settings for the gallery meeting. Sophia burst in, energetic as always. Ready to build your empire? Actually, I glanced at my phone, at Liam's earlier message. Can we make one stop first? The coffee shop was quiet when we arrived. Liam sat at his usual corner table, surrounded by legal papers, still helping clean up the Parker mess, even after everything. He looked up as we approached, his expression shifting from surprise to something warmer. Val, I thought you had the gallery meeting. We do. I set my camera on his table, but I needed to capture something first. What's that? The moment I stopped letting the past define my future, understanding dawned in his eyes. He'd always been good at reading between my lines. Sophia, I said, not looking away from Liam. Tell the agent we'll be a few minutes late. She squeezed my shoulder as she left, and I sat down across from the man who'd helped me see the truth when I was too close to notice it myself. So, I said, picking up my camera, want to help me plan my first gallery exhibition? His smile was nothing like Ben's. It held no hidden agendas. No family expectations, just possibility. What's the theme? He asked. Through my viewfinder, I framed him against the soft cafe light, capturing not what was lost, but what might be found. New beginnings, I said, and pressed the shutter.